Hello, students, and a very warm welcome to the Sociopedia channel. Today, we're jumping right into Chapter 2, Social Change and Social Order in Rural and Urban Society. We're going to explore these huge forces that shape our world and see how they play out in villages and big cities. So, let's get started. Okay, here's a quick look at our game plan for today. First, we'll figure out what social change actually is and what gets it started. Then, we'll switch gears and look at what keeps society stable. And finally, we'll see how this whole push and pull between change and order looks really different in the countryside versus the city. All right, let's dive into the main event. First things first, what exactly is social change? You've probably heard this saying before, right? That change is the only constant. And it feels so true for modern life. But here's the crazy part. This idea of constant, super fast change is actually, in the grand scheme of things, a very new thing for humanity. This slide really puts it all into perspective. I mean, just look at this. If you squeeze all of human history into one 24-hour day, farming doesn't even show up until 4 minutes to midnight. And modern society, whoa, that's all happened in the last 30 seconds. It's a mind-blowing way to see just how incredibly fast everything is changing now. So, here's a key thing to remember. Not every little fad or trend counts as social change. Nope, we're talking about the big stuff, major shifts that fundamentally change the very structure of how a society works. For something to be real social change, it's got to have a huge impact, and it has to affect a whole lot of people. And this change doesn't always happen at the same speed. This slide breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got evolutionary change, which is slow and steady, happening over ages. But on the other side, you've got revolutionary change, which is boom, fast, sudden, and totally disruptive, like the French Revolution. So this all leads to a really important question. What's actually pushing these changes forward? What are the engines that are transforming everything around us? Well, sociologists have kind of boiled it down to 5 major players: the environment, technology, the economy, politics, and our culture. Let's quickly look at each one. First up, the environment. I mean, think about it. A massive earthquake or a tsunami can change a society forever in just a few minutes. And it's not just disasters. Discovering something like oil can completely rewrite the future of an entire region. Now, when you put technology and the economy together, wow, that's a powerhouse for change. Inventions like the steam engine, or more recently, the internet, they didn't just give us new toys. They completely changed how we work, how we talk to each other, how our entire society functions. And, of course, we can't forget about politics and culture. These are always shifting. Think about a country gaining independence or a society deciding everyone gets to vote. Those are huge political changes. Same with culture. When our ideas about things like the role of women or religion start to change, society itself changes in some really deep ways. Okay, so this brings up a really good question. If everything is always in flux, always changing, what keeps society from just, falling apart? And the answer to that big question is social order. So let's flip the coin and look at the forces that keep things stable, the things that resist and manage all that change. So, how does society stay in one piece? Well, it mostly happens in 2 ways. The first is what we call spontaneous consent. That's when we just willingly follow the rules because we've grown up with them and believe in them. The second is through power and compulsion, which is when, people in charge make us follow the rules. This is where the idea of authority is super important. The famous sociologist Max Weber called it legitimate power. It's not just about force, it's about power that we, the people, accept as being fair and right. Think about a teacher in a classroom or a police officer directing traffic. But what happens when people don't agree with the rules? Or what if they break them on purpose? That's where things like contestation and crime enter the picture. So, there are lots of ways to disagree, from peaceful protests to creating a whole counterculture. But once you cross a legal line, it's called a crime. A really powerful example is civil disobedience. Think of Mahatma Gandhi breaking the salt law because he believed the law itself was wrong. And then, of course, there's violence, which is the ultimate challenge to social order. Okay, enough with the big abstract ideas for a minute. Let's see how all of this actually works in a real-world setting, starting with life in a village. In a village, social order is usually incredibly strong. Why? Well, everyone knows everyone. Relationships are personal. traditional things like caste and religion have a much stronger grip. And because there's no anonymity, it's really hard to speak out or challenge the way things are. All of this means that big social changes tend to happen much, much more slowly. Now let's jump from the village to the city, which is a whole different world with a completely different set of rules. In cities, with millions of people crammed together, the biggest challenge to keeping order is all about one thing: space. Just think about it. This one factor leads to problems with housing, the growth of slums, trying to manage buses and trains, and of course, all that traffic. Social change in cities is not just fast, you can literally see it happening. You see things like gated communities popping up for the rich, and you see gentrification. That's when older, working-class neighborhoods get transformed into trendy, expensive areas, pushing the original residents out. So, let's tie this all together. Here are the key things to take away. First, social change is what defines our modern world, and it's happening incredibly fast. Second, this change is always balanced by the forces of social order. And finally, how this all plays out is totally different in a slow-moving, rigid village compared to a fast-paced, space-obsessed city. And that's our look at social change and social order. To really help you with your studies, we've put together detailed notes for this entire chapter. You can find them on our Telegram channel. Just check out the link in the description below. Thanks for joining us.